Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels. Today we are assembling a special box. The Fates Entwined box for the Explorers Society, Neverborn, and Bayou factions. This is one of the notorious boxes that I'm really excited to do because this is going to help out a lot of people deal with these minis. Each one of them is relatively difficult, with the Kurgan probably being the most notorious because it's just a giant lump of moss and trees and rocks and dirt and stuff. And that makes it kind of hard to know where things go, but each one has their own difficulty. We've got Jedza Everlasting, the skeleton grandma here, the Kurgan, the aforementioned pile of stuff, and Zoraida Swamp Hag as our third miniature. That's our artwork on the back. We have Jedza here with some kind of undead man. Then the Kurgan with optional birds. And then Zoraida with just a bunch of crap hanging off of her. This is going to be great. All right, we will do them in box order, at least as left to right with the renders. Blah, I cannot speak. So let's look at our sprues. Oh, God. So we've got optional birds here. We've got Zoraida, who actually has the most bits out of all the models. If you don't include the bird bits for the Kurgan, at 16 she has, which is daunting. Jedza here with 14 bits, I believe. And then the Kurgan also with 14 bits, just larger bits. I'm so excited to do this. All right, let's look at Jedza's instructions and then go over her sprue. Okay, we are going to do her in 3 parts. The majority of Jedza being one, her backpack being another, and then the man she appears to be resurrecting out of the ground or something as the third piece, and then we'll combine them all together. However, I am relatively certain that she actually is not touching the undead man at all. At the very least, though, you could probably put her hand on some of the magical effect that's coming off of it. But anyways, build order. Gonna grab her body. I think that's E8. Yep, E8. We'll put her legs in where legs would normally go, E1. And then enclose her skirt with E13 over here. After that, we'll do the umbrella on her back, E7. And then both of her arms, E5 being her right arm, and E4 being her left arm. We'll then grab the 2 halves of the backpack out, as well as the extra maps or scrolls or whatever, glue those onto the 2 halves of the backpack, and then we'll attach the backpack to her back, and then the victim man, his base, his body, his arm, and his head, and the magical effect all together, and then attach that to the base and her left hand if you want. Long ramble. Start with E8 and then E1. Alright, starting with E8. E1 is going to fit right down here in this notch. I should have given you better instructions, but the right leg is going to be set further back than the left leg, so it's going to be offset. As you can see from the top, standing with her left foot forward. And that's so that E13 will fit over the top comfortably. So we'll go ahead and add that next. Yeah, E13. And it's really smooth connection. You can barely tell there's a seam there. That's great. But yeah, the legs would probably smush into place if you didn't set them correctly once you put this bit on. All right, next is going to be our umbrella on the back, E7, which is, oh goodness, going to fit right along there with, excuse me, the handle pointed to her right side. Okay, this sort of sinks into her butt. Next, we will do E5, the right arm, little glue in here, and then it should actually touch the ground at the end of the scroll. Right there. I ended up attaching to her to a base just to make sure that both her and the scroll would be flat on the ground. So there is our connection. Next, E2, her left arm. That one should be more obvious way it's supposed to be set. Alright, there's the left arm. Gonna need to get something pokey to really get it in there and make sure the seam looks nice. But it doesn't matter a whole ton because it's not really going to be touching anything, so don't worry about it too much. Next, we're gonna assemble the backpack as we said. Let's grab E10, add it to E9, and then attach E14 to that. Alright, here is, I think this was E10. This is the bit that will connect to Jedza's back. You can see the straps of the backpack there. So now we're going to do the other half of the backpack on top of this. Alright, now we have a comically large backpack. Now let's do our extra bit of scrolls that are going to go right on here. This bit. Okay, that is all we need for the backpack. We can just glue this onto our back now. You can see that tooth right there that will glue right in here on her back, sitting on top of the umbrella. Alright. It's a large satchel, ma'am. Okay, all of Jedza's done. Now we just need her companion, I guess, the zombie man. So to review all the things we need to do for him, we'll grab the body, do the left arm, left arm, E4, and then we'll add the head, E3, followed by the magic, E6, and I guess jam the base on at some point, E12. Actually, we'll just do the body first, put it on the base, then arm, head, magic. All right, here's the body, here's the very obvious connection point on it, which will connect to right here on the base. Okay, oops, I just grabbed my fingies. There we are. Now let's grab E4, the left arm, put it right there. All right, left arm in. Next we'll do, excuse me, the head, E3, which is gonna go right there. Should have definitely specified that he was really, really looking to his right. It was relatively easy for me to slip it in there correctly, but maybe just for convenience you put the head on before you do the left arm. Yeah, that might be just slightly easier, but we'll next jam the magic back here. It attaches a lot higher up on the body than the instructions would imply. Okay, and I guess it's just a little bit nudging there. I think it is very doable to just attach the head to the magic and then attach both to the shoulders. Yeah, so new order, grab the body, put it on the basing thing, glue the head to the magic, glue those two to the neck hole, and then do the left arm last. That's the new order, but you can just attach this to her base now and maybe have this magic effect close to her left hand. I don't think there's no real attachment spot here. Yeah, something like that. Well, she's all done. Now let's review. Jedza Everlasting is done. A decent amount of bits. Hardest part for her was I guess the head on the guy she's raising. Its interaction with the magical fire effect and getting around his arm. Also figuring out actually the left arm holding the scroll, getting that in the right spots. If you don't have her attached to the base, just eyeballing it and hoping that it's level with the ground with her feet. Yeah, that'd be a bit of a pain. It's got a lot of stuff. I think she likes maps. Anyways, so let's move on to the big boy. Okay, Kurgan, we can do this. We got this. I'm not going to give you the full rundown of the assembly because I'm not 100% certain how I'm going to do it, but we'll look at the instructions before we actually do the assembly. I think I want to start with B2 and B6. These two bits, we'll combine them together, and then they will attach on top of B12 here. Once we're done with that, I'm going to grab B8, which is one of the Kurgan's arms, and we're going to attach it, I think, right here, somewhere on this bit. And once that's attached, we will grab B1, combine it with B10, and then add those to that big block of bits, and it should sort of like thread. Like this is the thumb of the hand that's here, and so we want that arm first before we attach the hands. So just trust me on that. So we're gonna grab these 2 bits first, and then add them to this one for our first 2 steps. Now let's look at the instructions. Here is B6. This one looks like from the front. B2 is going to go right on top of it, like that. Alright, there's the combined bit. Here's our connection point to B12. Here's our B12. It's just going to go on top of B12 like that. Okay. There they all are combined. Next, I'm gonna go and grab, what was that bit? B8. That is gonna cover up this big old gap here. Okay. There's the arm. I'm gonna set this down and build the rest of our hillside. Just gonna go ahead and be B1 here. And B10. Alright, here is B1, and I think that was B10. Just going to go right in here at the front, underneath the hand. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Okay, next it will connect to the rest of our model right here, although I might do some trimming to hopefully get that gap filled on the thumb. Alright, that's pretty good. Gap's not too terrible. Next is going to be B13. I already clipped it out accidentally. This one, I actually have it upside down. It is going to jam up in the bottom of the tree, kind of like this. It's hard to... Yeah, there we go. That's more or less how it's going to fit. It'll fit once I trim it, but this part right here is going to slot in right there on the base. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. Oops. That's the way it looks. You can see that it's nice and flat up against the base. The next is going to be B11, our left arm, I guess, of the Kurgan. This piece. And I'm going to go ahead and do some dry fitting because I remember it being real hard to figure out where it went the first time I built this. Right, our connection point is right under here. You see that nice pill shape. And it is going to connect to this on the arm. Alright. That's where it fits the most flush. It kind of bugs me that it doesn't seem to actually connect to this thing right here, but with a little bit of green stuff you can fix that, or you can have it not quite as flush to the arm and have it down possibly, or just curve it there. Honestly, that looks halfway decent too. So you could just do it that way if this bothers you as much as it does me. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and put it up there just for safety reasons. Right. Okay. Next up, we're going to go ahead and do the tree that is sitting right here on top of his, right next to his right hand. And that bit is going to be B7, this one. Okay. That's what it looks like attached. Next, he's got this one upside down dangly tree from his face, which we haven't put on yet, but his face will be right here. And that's going to connect right here. You see the pill shape again. I'm very fond of pill shapes. That is going to be B3, or connection point. On the other side, you can see the pill. There is our dangly boy. I believe this branch root thing is just going to slide up underneath there. Might actually be a connection point. Unsure, but it looks real nice. Alright, now let's finally add his face. Just going to go on there, and that bit is B14. We're looking at his face upside down. There he is. What a pretty smile. Hey, it's a face. Okay, now we get to do the really, really, really tiny puppet. I'm excited. Not really. So, really hard to see, but that is the puppet's leg, as far as I can tell. And you need to look way in there. I'm not sure if I can focus enough to actually show you. There is the pill shape of a connection point right here in this tree. Let's see if we can get enough light to actually show that. You might have to believe. Yep, it's right there. That weird little pill shape. And on our little puppet man doll before, you can see the indent right there, which will connect to that pill-shaped connection point on the tree, and then that leg should fit somewhere on his body right here. Okay, that's actually pretty solid. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Alright, next up, let me think. Go ahead and do B9. It's got two connection points, one right here and one right here. And those correspond to the back of his head and further down the body right there. Okay. Looks good. Our last bit is B5. And it's going to have some weird connection points. But effectively, it is going to be fitting right in this area. There is a tiny little connection point right there. And I think it connects somewhere up here for this one, as well as you can see just a little notch right there where it will also connect. I really think the best way is for me to just install it and do it before and after as best as possible. It's real weird. Right before and after. Our connection points are down here. It connects to the hairpiece we just installed right there, and then that one notch I pointed out to right underneath this spot. But that is all of our bits. He is done. Put him on a base. Am I saying he is not done? We've got birds, so let's set him down and assemble ourselves a freaking owl and a... what the crap is that? A cormorant, I think. Let's do the owl first. Okay, for our cormorant, we'll start with the easy stuff. Grab the body F4, add the wing F3, and then we'll clip out F1 first, figure out which leg it's supposed to be, and then do F2 after that. Okay, got a bird body. Wing is just going to go right in there. Okay. Just wiggle it around until the seam mostly goes away. Alright, cut out F1, and I'll figure out what leg it is. Alright, F1 is going to be the cormorant's right leg, so in that hole. Okay, just gotta be real careful because it's a tiny bit, but it fit in alright. So now we can do F2, the left leg. Alright. Well, it also just took a lot of being very gentle and nudging things around with good old tweezers until it got into place. That looks good. He needs a name, so we're gonna call him Turnips. And I'm gonna figure out a place to put him on the Kurgan, so give me a sec. Alright. I think it looks good. If you're going to do what I'm doing, then definitely make sure that there is another point of connection besides the feet, because they are heckin' tiny. So in this case, I also made sure his tail glued to the branch of this tree. Let me focus. Excuse me. You can see where it's leaning up against the tree. Alright, now let's work on our owl. Do the exact same thing where we will grab the body, D2, add the wings, D1, and then we'll figure out where D3 goes, followed by D4. D2 plus D1. And we'll flip them over, and now let me figure out where D3 goes. Alright, D3 is going to be the owl's left leg. Sorry. This one. Okay. Looks pretty good. Now we can do D4 as the right leg. Alright. We have one completed owl. We will christen him Sports Center. Now let me find a place for him on the Kurgan. Okay, owl is attached, and again, tail is glued to this branch. We're all done with the Kurgan! Yay! The Kurgan is all done. The hardest part for him was figuring out where all the bits went. The instructions were not terribly helpful, so this is one of the ones where, like, if you see me do it, that's the majority of the difficulty there. It should be easier for you. Now that you've seen where everything goes and you get a nice 360 view of him. The bird legs kind of sucked, but those are optional. You don't have to put the birds on there. But I like birds. Oh, and the little tiny voodoo doll on the top of his head. That was the hardest part. Yeah, we'll say the voodoo doll. All right, let's move on to the model I've not been looking forward to. Okay. All right. Zoraida, Swamp Hag. Going to be difficult because of so many little tiny things that are going to be so easy to accidentally knock off. We can do this. So we'll start with the body. A14, well, the back half of her shoulders and cloud of moths, I think. I'm not sure what this is. A16, so we'll add that to her body. Followed by, there's a doll. So, yeah, this one. This one's riding her back. And then we can probably add her hair, followed by her head. And then we can do this doll that's sort of poking out of her lower back. And there's this little horn thing that's also kind of poking out of her back / side. And there's like a lamp or something that attached to that, but we'll do that later because that is a very thin connection point. Okay, so once we got everything that's sort of like attached to her body, we can do her other leg. Well, one of her legs, and then the other one of her legs, and then her arm with the staff, and her other arm holding a like a lizard thing. And then, yeah, we can probably do that lamp at that point. Then we will cut out this cauldron thing, attach the lower half of a doll that is carrying it, plus the upper half of the doll that is carrying it. Actually, we'll do the upper half of the doll first. And then, finally, we will attach that to her foot, and it will be just so ding-darn easy. And then, lastly, we'll do this bracelet on her ankle, because it's another really tiny connection. All right. Lots of rambling. Let's look at the instructions and get started with A14 and A16. All right, A14. A16 is just going to fit over this entire hole on her back. Okay. Next, we will do A3, which is a voodoo doll. It will connect right here on this connection point. And you see the big old tooth, or hole for a tooth. It will just line up with that right there. You can kind of see it. It will be looking forward, same as Zoraida. Okay. There he is. Next, we will go ahead and do Zoraida's hair, which is going to basically fit over this weird star pattern. And that bit is going to be A6 right here. Okay. Next, be A2 Zoraida's head, which is going to fit right on that connection point. Head went on just fine. Next is going to be the horn thing. It is a horn. It's going to be sticking out right here. This is the connection point. If you see right here, this is some kind of animal skull. So that would be the horn coming off the animal skull. Now, that bit is A7. Okay. Get a little bit closer in there. Oh yeah. You can see. Skull, horn. Next will be a voodoo doll that's maybe attached to a waist or something. Anyways, our connection point for that is right here. And the bit in question is A13. That connection point is right there. Okay. All right. Next, we'll do her left leg, which is A5. Correct. Actually, we need to do A15, the right leg, first. My bad. Leg. Alright. Now we can do the left leg. Okay, both legs are on. Now let's go ahead and do the right hand. I think that's A1. It's going to go, let's see. You can see that the wrist is notched. And, yep, A1. Where's her hand? Right there. You can kind of tell that there is a notch right there. Okay. Teeny tiny wrist, so we are going to try very hard to not nudge the stupid stick at all. Alright. Let me figure out how her arm's supposed to go. Okay, her dumb arm is going to fit right in there. She's effectively like holding a lizard over the top of her cauldron thing that we haven't assembled yet. Just look at the reference. Alright. There is a ridge on the connection point, which makes it fairly easy to sit in correctly. You just got to get it up in there. Tweezers really help. Okay, let me figure out this lantern thing, which is a 10. You can see the tiniest little connection point underneath this horn. Let me figure out how it attaches. Alright, here's our bit. See the top, really thin. But if you look closely, I have no idea if it's like showing up on camera, but it's just ever so slightly flat. So we're going to glue this tippy top part into that notch on the horn I mentioned before. Alright, I don't think the instructions say that it's supposed to glue to the rope with bones, but for the love of God, make sure that this is not the only point of connection, otherwise it's going to break off immediately. Anyways, it looks good. Next, sure, we'll finish her up and do her bracelet anklet, ever so gingerly. You can't really see part of it unless you look on the inside, but yeah, that little nub right there is part of the anklet. If you look at the bit, it doesn't go fully circular because it connects to, oh goodness, it's so tiny, like right there. So yeah, effectively this is part of a circle. Fill out the rest of the circle with the anklet, which is a 12. Yep, that was real hard. Once you got it on and it doesn't look like garbage, just leave it. Don't mess with it too much. Alright, well, hardest part of the model done. So now we can finish the rest. Let's get to working on her cauldron. Set her down very gently and don't even look at her, otherwise she will fall apart. Okay, grab A4. And then the top half of a voodoo doll, the bottom half of a voodoo doll, and then we will attach the entire thing to our foot. Alright, here's A4. A10, you can see the outline of his head and 2 arms. Alright, there we go. Our last bit, A11, just going to really jam up in there, and he's going to be like real crumpled over. Look, he's walking backwards holding this bowl. Once you look at the rest of the body, it'll make sense. It's just sort of maybe not intuitive that he's going to be shaped like that. So let me just jam it in. There's also, like, you can kind of see a connection point underneath the head. Okay, there we go. Poor boy really scrunched up. Alright, so we will... You can probably attach this to the base and then attach her to it. Yeah, that will make sense. Of note, her heel has a dot connection point, which will fit right on this poor guy's head. And then that will sort of be a guide to where her foot will be resting against the cauldron, bowl, whatever, right here on this indentation. Right here we are attached to a base. Haha! Yay. Oh, we're all done. Okay. Let's review. Zoraida Swamp Hag is done. Goodness. Whole thing was the hardest part. Okay. the real tiny bits, the ankle bracelet, the teapot connection, her wrist with the cane, and getting her all lined up with her foot on the cauldron bowl thing. All that hard. Things I would change. I would not do those 3 pain points, the lantern or pot or whatever, the cane and her anklet, until I had her on the base and attached to the bowl. Once then I can just hold on to the base and not her damn bony body. I can attach the other bits with less fear of accidentally knocking them off, trying to attach other pieces. So I would suggest doing those last. Let's look at the whole box. The Fates Entwined box is finally done, containing Jedza Everlasting, the Kurgan, and Zoraida Swamp Hag. And I didn't order them correctly on the damn turntable, but I don't care anymore. This is, so far, I think the hardest box in all of Malifaux. That isn't a Nightmare box, and I think it's harder than most Nightmare boxes. Good lord. Zoraida, definitely the hardest part. Easiest was Jedza, Kurgan being middle of the road. Kurgan having some real weird, unknowable places where things went, but at least the bits were big, except for the bird legs. But the bird legs are optional. Zoraida's got so much tiny crap on her. So yeah, she's the hardest part. I'm gonna go take a long sleep and maybe a good cry. I have been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build better Malifaux. Best of luck! I'm happy to help, at least.